bringing you inside the USL Championship and League One.
Segmer's got there. Marquinhos! He's been knocking on the door. He knocks it down.
Diving into all the biggest stories and top headlines.
You are ripping and roaring today.
This is USL All Access.
It's almost impossible to recreate that level of magic.
With Mike Watts and Devin Kerr on SiriusXM FC.
Welcome in, everybody, to a new edition of USL All Access on this Tuesday, coming off the long weekend. Emmett McConnell's at the controls. Mike Watts and Devin Kerr, as always. Got a great show coming up for you. Phoenix head coach Pa-Modou is set to join us from Wales. We'll tell you why. Meanwhile, Tulsa sporting director and GM, always struggling to get a reservation in the buzzing metropolis that is Tulsa, Oklahoma, joins us as well. Caleb Sewell. Plenty to chat about within the league. Open Cup continued. Devin, I don't know that there's much more to say before we just dive right into this thing.
Bring us in. Precursor, by the way, that interview with Caleb is pre-recorded, and let's just say that his background and the background they put people through is interesting. I had to get that out there. Sorry.
It is awesome.
He's impressive, man. They both are.
Yeah, you'll want to stick around for this. All right, Dev, let's chat about Open Cup first. Only Pittsburgh remained in the round of 16 from the lower divisions. The Riverhounds are out. They fall 4-1 to Philly in Chester. Elsewhere, Chicago beats New England soundly. San Jose gets by Portland in extra time. Nashville past Orlando. A Red Bull impends over Dallas after the Emil Forsberg equalizer in stoppage time. Minnesota past St. Louis. DC United impends. Crazy game over Charlotte. Tubbs, who's actually on loan to Loudoun and recalled, equalized late. Then Jackson Hopkins, who you probably remember from Loudoun, equalized in extra time. They missed 3 straight shootout attempts and still end up backing over the line. And then Austin beating Houston 3-1. Dev, favorite moving forward in the competition, and thoughts on the Hounds getting that sweet, sweet second division final finisher money.
Give them a run. Remember, just a couple of years ago, they did the exact same thing. I thought they did well for themselves. Overmatched, overpowered, never going to happen. Minnesota United, I would book it to the final if I had the ability to put money on it. I don't bet in general, and I'm also shockingly prohibited from that process being involved. I do think it's interesting just to tell people some of this stuff here, that people are looking for flashies. They want the, not the Galaxy this year, but they want the Galaxy of last year. They want LAFC, right? They want Cincinnati. They want Crew. I think there's some great historical value with Greg Berhalter and Chicago Fire. Certainly similar conversation with Bruce Arena and San Jose, everything that he's brought, as well as some of the OGs in New York Red Bull, of course, Metro Stars prior, and what has been a change in success for the Philadelphia Union under Bradley Carnell. DC United's still there right away, though I think it's a stretch to get past Nashville. I like Minnesota. I just think there are a lot more storylines than people are giving this credit for. It may not be the flashy names, but there are certainly some fun ones in the final 8 teams.
Yep. All right, Dev, let's chat about the league here for a moment. Birmingham comes away with a 2-1 win at Miami. We're going to call this the week of the corner kick in USL. Bonfilio scores his 6th of the season off a corner. Miami gets 18 shots, but it's Pasher and Damas who score for Legion, reminding you that they could not score at all when Tommy Sohn was there, unfortunately, but they are on track.
I think they've done well for themselves. They've grown every single game. I look at the tendencies and what has been, I believe, 4 games now. That's what I'm going by here for Briggs. It might be 3, but I think it's 4. 16 different players only. I say only because he's found familiarity within that 11. He's used 19 total, so he is giving guys chances. Within those chances, the ball has been cleaner. Defensively, they've been tighter. And the chance creation going forward, you joked about kind of the Pasher and Damas and what it could look like. I don't think I've ever seen more players committed to the final third for Birmingham than I do now. So we can talk tactics and the overall build and stuff, but whatever it looks like on the back line, I don't really care when you're 30 yards and in, because that commitment to the process has created a lot more connection points. Martinez has more freedom to roam. They're getting really high, efficient looks in front of goal. And I think the cleanliness has a lot to do with it. As mentioned, 4 games over 80% passing every single match.
Dev, Orange County, a 3-1 win at home over Colorado Springs includes a flick-on finish by Cameron Dunbar off a corner, war long-range exclamation point at the end. Fontana got sent off for a second yellow that maybe he shouldn't have gone into, but I also don't agree with giving a second yellow on that. Thoughts on that overarching performance for OC?
100% agree on that. I would say that for Orange County, I think they're better defensively, first off. Mm-hmm. I've never been shy away from the fact that since Danny Stone came in, I made the comments last year that they are organized. I would argue that's their biggest asset. Scott in the midfield, I think he does a really good job controlling everything. I think they are adaptable on the width, which allows them structurally to maintain and absorb a little bit more pressure. Certainly they did at the end of the game against Colorado Springs. I don't know if they had a single shot in the final 30 minutes, I would have to guess. They got pounded. But Colorado Springs, though, they have a problem. And I think the problem is an identity. I'm not sure what they are, because there's no doubt in my mind this team can still fly, produce a spectacular, and score some ridiculous goals. Defensively, they've had to rotate a lot of pieces. Aiden Rocha's back up into the midfield. Matt Mahoney's back at outside back. And to me, it's just they look disturbed is probably the best word. It's unorganized, and they're second in USL in goals against in the final 15 minutes. You know, we've had a conversation about this for a couple of teams this year. Leadership is a big one there, and I'm a bit surprised, given the guys that are on the field for this team, that they haven't been able to see the games out. I'm sure that it makes James Chambers irate. I'm sure Stevie Hogan, Alan McCann, everybody involved in that process are going to say, listen, like, we can only lead you to water. We can't make you drink. Because I don't think they've made bad choices in personnel. I think subs, they've brought on good players. You got 15 minutes to go. Most of the time, that's not about tactics. That's about will. We're going to talk to Pa-Modou about that, about finding a way to go get a result. Mike, you got to will yourself over the line there.
No doubt. A couple other results we want to mention in the championship. Charleston, a 3-1 win in Detroit. Chapman scored 2 minutes in, dare I say, off a corner. Jennings, a brace. He's got a league-leading 11 on the year. Torres, great goal from distance, also league-leading 5th assist. Lexington and Tampa Bay. Ironically, Joe Malfa and I talked about someone had to win last week. Joe corrected me, said that's not true. He was right. It finished 1-1. Arteaga equalizer off a short corner. Also, Dev, real quick, how good was Louisville last week? It finished 2-0 at Monterey.
They destroyed Monterey. First off, Monterey has a little bit of issues going forward. I think that's an extended conversation for another time. To me, this could very easily be the most balanced performance of the year, not just by Louisville, maybe by any team. They were unbreakable, man. They are so clean on the ball. They can hit you in so many different areas of the field. I love Perez and the way that he's moving. Ray Serrano's having a good year. I feel like we're starting to get the best out of this team going forward. They were incredible.
Yep, and dare I say, Tosh scored off a corner. Birmingham, couple ads. Cameron Lacey, Eric Centennial coming into the team. Congrats. Pedro Guimaraes and Ramiz Hamuda both called into the U.S. under-17s. Wolfgang Prentice, we talked a lot about the Oakland Roots attacker a couple of weeks ago when we had them on TV. Signs an extension at Oakland. Had spent the last few years on loan in League One. Leads the Roots with 4 goals. And before we go to break, wanted to make mention, if it matters to Forrest to make it public, so to us. He wrote on X a letter to myself, 372 days sober it begins. This is a rebirth, not tied to age or job title or status, a reset, a resurrection, a daily recommitment to becoming whole, and it's only just the beginning, he concluded. Forrest, friend of the show, all-time great in this league. Wishing you absolutely all the best. I know I speak for all of us in saying happy that you found what you need, and however we can help, we're always here, brother. So all the best to you, Forrest, who certainly dealt with a cavalcade of injury over the last couple of years. Congratulations on finding yourself. All right, when we come back, Pa-Modou is the Phoenix Rising head coach. He's with us from Wales, not taking the Wrexham job, but in Wales. Back in a moment here on All Access.
Let's get back to USL All Access on SiriusXM FC with Mike Watts and Devin Kerr.
Welcome back. It's USL All Access on this Tuesday night. If you miss any part of the show, it's available tomorrow on the USL YouTube page or on the SiriusXM app. As promised, the Phoenix Rising head coach to join us here, Pa-Modou, previously led Pacific FC in the CPL, North Texas as well within USL. Came to Phoenix after a couple of years stint as an assistant at Charlotte and a 400-plus game playing career. Pa joins us on the show from Wales. Coach, how are you? And appreciate you working time zones with us to make it happen.
Pleasure to be here. I'm well and I'm alive, so all good.
Awesome. Coach, named head coach in Phoenix in mid-November. I just kind of want to go back to that point. Describe the conversations with the Phoenix Rising front office that made you feel it was the most attractive next step for your career and how it's gone to this point.
It's been great. I mean, it was a shared alignment that Bobby, Brandon, and myself shared, and I think that propelled it because we put in values and the most important thing that we understood where we wanted Phoenix to continue to go, because Phoenix was an ambitious club and somebody that could be part of that organization and drive it forward. And both Brandon and Bobby is super ambitious and want Phoenix to be a gold standard in USL, and for us to see the same values per se, but also the same alignment, to have that, I think was great. And in USL Phoenix, I mean, is one of the top clubs, so to be able to get a job there, help the club, but also help yourself, I think it's it aligned well.
Yeah, you speak to the idea of ambition and gold standard. Phoenix has also been the goal standard of the USL as well. You guys sit fourth in the league in that at the moment. Well-documented injuries in the back line to start the year. You're above the playoff line 10 games in. How do you describe the way the season has gone to this point relative to expectation?
Well, obviously, it's you want to win games. Right? Everybody know you want to win games, and for the outside, when you don't understand what is going on the inside, it's tough because But what we see a team that is growing. We see a team that is that have always been together, but they're understanding themselves, their own qualities and qualities they every single of them can bring. And injuries doesn't help. We know this game. The last two games is the only two games where we've actually played with the same back line. Right, the whole season we never had a game where we played with the same back lines, and we have injuries on key players. That doesn't help. But what the thing that I'm most proud of, everybody has stepped up when their number's been called, and that for me is what defines a group. And this is a group that we got our second win on a trot. We hoping now to go on a little bit of momentum run where we can showcase truly of who we've always been, and that is the thing I look at after 10 games, and there's so much more to come, so much more potential.
Mike referenced earlier, officially named in mid-November as the head coach, right? I think there's two parts of that for me to educate the audience about. Number one, the process that was to get to you that point, the educating yourself on what is going to be the morals, values, your relationships within Phoenix, but also for people that don't know you, how well educated you are within the game, within all the different tiers in U.S. soccer and around the world, to be fair, of just so much knowledge. Taking that and what is not a huge runway, but a decent time to get an idea of how you wanted to build that. 15 new players coming into the group between Academy and new guys brought in. Can you maybe describe the process in the offseason between yourself, Bobby, and Brandon, and how you guys went about attacking the overall build of this roster for the future?
No, absolutely. First of all, it was, again, all right, what kind of culture do we want to build? Secondly was our playing style aligned. They wanted to play 4-3-3, which attacking football, that suited me. And then it's, okay, what players do we need to able to play this style? And the characters of the person was the most important thing for us. We were looking for good people, because me as a coach, that's the first thing I said. For me to able to motivate and push somebody to be their best, I need to know who they are as people, because at the end of the day, they play football for 90 minutes and they train every single day, but they're also people. And for us to connect with the people, especially the type of person I am, who is also a developer, I think was important to bring in characters that we know could play in our system, but first and foremost, fit the characteristics that is required to be a Phoenix Rising player, which is be a good person, come in and do your best, and help each other to grow. So looking at those processes, we always looked at who can come in and make an impact. And obviously you're also going to look at players that maybe you've coached and understand that they can help accelerate that development piece of who I am as a coach. You needed sometimes. But the biggest thing was we brought in players that we knew fit how we wanted to be as Phoenix Rising moving forward. And also looking down in the academy, which I find very important as well as a club to able to have access into your academy. And we see it. Braxton Montgomery, Jamison Payne, they're getting minutes. And then you look at it, we're talking about an 18 and a 17-year-old playing week in, week out, and showing that they belong. So for us having that and having two players scored against Monterey from Arizona, that means a lot also to the community, So we look at those parts, and that's how we build the team.
There's a buzzword that people like to use, and I'm not saying unnecessarily. People talk about their process, right? And
Yeah.
within that, I've found this build with you where it's putting a process out in front of the players. There's a commitment to that. But one of the biggest things that I admire so much, and Mike will get into the one-on-one relatability with the individual player, but it's your ability on the field and in training sessions to get them to just flat out compete, right? It's something you and I have spent time talking about the competition side of the game and how we try and sort of reintroduce that fire, especially to the younger generation, of getting them to just understand how to go and win a game, right? Get rid of tactics. Let's go out compete someone. Can you maybe talk about that, pull the curtain back a little bit and give us an idea about the connectivity on the field and maybe pulling back that onion to get guys to understand that it's not just all X's and O's, and there's a factor within this game that is about the soul on the inside of a player and just wanting it more than the guy next to them.
No, absolutely. I mean, again, why do we play this game? We play this game to compete, to be better than somebody that is on the other side. But for that to happen also, it's very important to understand players why. Like, why are you playing this game? Why are you in this position? And what do you want to achieve when you're in this position? Because for me, everything that I believe in is you got to earn it. You just don't walk in everywhere and say, yeah, just give it to me. That will never happen anywhere again. But it's becoming a little bit of a lost art. Now everybody's into the participation. Hey, you participate, you get a medal. No, you're not with me. You want
Not my
something, you
house.
go get it. No, not in my house. I do the same thing with my daughters. Even when I play games with my daughters, you have to learn to beat me because that's where the satisfaction comes from. And that's where you will understand what it takes to win. Winning is not granted for everybody. You can be maybe the most prepared person and you lose, but it's the process that you go through to truly understand what it takes. And that competitive, and then being competitive is so important, it drives the fire in you to go above and beyond to understand what do I need to do to be the best? Because it's easy to say, I want to be the best. But when you get asked the question, how do you want to be the best? The answer is, I don't know. Well, if you don't know, then you're never going to be the best. So how do you figure it out? That's why everything we do is about competition, because at the end of the day, when you step on the pitch, the pitch size never changes. It's 110, 76 yards, 11v11, one ball. Who's coming on top?
Pa, did you ever play on a baseball field? The dimensions do change. I've kept. Yeah.
I do. But
Okay.
but again, the lines never change.
That's accurate. That's
The
very
lines never
accurate.
change.
I couldn't help myself. Pa-Modou with us, the Phoenix Rising head coach. Pa, we had a handful of your games early in the season, and there was an instance where we saw you go out and set standards within the team and then stick to those standards. And I had huge respect for it in that moment. I think something that we've spoken about with clarity and passion in the past is about, and you mentioned it earlier, bring the right people. and working with the person as much as you do the player on the field. Can you describe the philosophy in which individual development, along with team development, drives you as a coach, and how standard setting is valuable as anything in how you develop the person within a group?
Yeah, because for me, the biggest thing is, again, go back to what is their why, but also understanding that we're dealing with human beings, and sooner or later, that human being is going to leave our environment in Phoenix. And when that person leave our environment in Phoenix and goes to another environment, you don't want them questioning what have they taught that person in that environment, because at the end of the day, we're dealing with people. So for me, first and foremost, what I tell my players is, you got to respect the game. Why? Because the game has given so much to many people. And you have to understand that once you leave this environment and go to another environment, you carry in the name of Phoenix Rising. So to do that, you have to understand what standards we set. And what the standards we set is be a good person, first and foremost, and represent where you are very well so that you have an opportunity to move further on. And for me, those values will never change. I don't care if I was coaching Messi or anybody, because values are values, and you have to uphold it. And for me, in a group setting, is if we say we want to achieve something, we got to commit to it. And it can be whenever somebody feel like it and they can do whatever they want. It will never happen, because we all know how is it in sports. We all like little kids. If somebody do one thing, everybody's taking notice. Yeah, but why is he doing this? I can never treat the same individuals the same, because they're 25 individuals, but that's where you understand in the person and treat them fairly, but in a group setting where they understand, okay, this is my roles. And when they step out of bounds, you bring them back again. And for me, it was an opportunity to let the group know that we don't do that as a group, because not only are you letting yourself down, but you're letting the whole group down. We're not going to have it, because these players need to trust you when they're on the pitch with you. At this moment, they can't trust you. And if I didn't act upon it as a coach, players are not stupid. I would have lost them. So it was a moment for our group process, for our group culture to act upon it, because then for me, it's not about the wins. The wins doesn't matter, because winning don't care about you. But respect and doing the right things will result into sustaining winning and sustaining culture. And for me, culture is the most important thing.
Speaking with Pa-Modou, head coach of Phoenix Rising in the Western Conference. They'll do battle with Las Vegas Lights tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern Time, 10:30 Pacific. I want to bring in the idea of what you were just talking about, accountability, right? The accountability aspect of the opponent, the results, the process. At the end of the day, you have to believe in what's put in front of you, but it also doesn't care about you. There's a commitment factor there within that individual. And within your group, there's so much adaptability. And in the modern game, with a lot of these young kids coming up, I'm relating it again because of how young your group is and the admiration I have for it. There are so many specific situations for players and how we map out what the game is going to look like. And you and I both know that ain't how the game is played. We give them maps, but we got to adapt, right? Your group, I made the argument 2 weeks ago. To me, they've adapted better, almost better than anyone, where it's regardless of formation or opponent within situations. You guys have had the ball 30% of the time, and you've had the ball 70% of the time, and you found a way to get results. Adaptability and committing to that has been everything. What has that journey been like, though? Because, to be fair, the window overall in this, really with the group, what is approaching 6 months, even though you started the relationships prior, that doesn't come right away, especially with the injuries.
No, again, like you said, 15 new players, 15 new people, 15 new different ways. Now you have to bring it into one thought process, right? So you always, and then it doesn't help that you get injuries. I won't say it doesn't help. It does play a part, because then now they face a little adversity that you may have expected maybe midway in the season. But I'm saying that we having these adversities, and these adversities is going to build us towards the ending of the season, where we have to be at our strongest. So building those thing and going through that, you learn also that you need to be adaptable. And one of the things I told the team is, we're going to be adaptable to ourselves. And what I mean with that is, things going to happen to us where we have to react to it, regardless the opposition or regardless of anything else that is going around us. And I think, and I believe that these things, when you are capable of installing it into the team and you work towards it, which we've happened to do, there's another strong belief coming out of them is, hold on, we're going through all of this and we are not even at our best. So now how are we going to look when we become our best? So going through these processes and working through these processes with them, daily communication, but also the bigger picture. Because footballers, we are sometimes short-sighted, you know. A win can throw a mood, you know, can destroy a mood or a tie, all of this. But for us, it's about, we know who we are. We trust the journey that we're going to go on. We know that we're going to have success. But along the way, we're going to get tested. So I'd rather be us battle tested right now than you don't have no battles, then coming in of the season and you get battle tested and you cannot rise up to the challenge.
Pa-Modou is with us here on USL All Access. Coach, we'd be remiss not to mention you got the Welsh gear on. I know Casey Whitewell, who's gone through the UEFA
Yes, Casey.
pro license as well.
Yeah.
Describe the pro licensing process over there and what drew you to traverse the world to continue your education.
Nah, yeah. Again, knowing that it's the global game and knowing that having the UEFA Pro license allows you to able to coach everywhere you want around the world. It's a privilege for me to be on this course, and I've done all my badges here with the Welsh FA, with my B and all the way through now to my pro. Again, the biggest learning that you take and I took from the Welsh is, we know how we want to coach in Wales, but this is a course for you to be you, which I think sometimes is very important rather than being a clone. I'm a guy that I like to do things and I don't want to be put in a box. So for me to able to go through a course where it allows me to learn towards the journey from other people, from other coaches, steal some ideas like we always do in coaching. We basically copy and paste. We just do anything different. But it's a journey of leadership. It's a journey of management. It's a journey of caring, which sometimes get lost in our sport, you know, because of the nature of it. But it's been a wonderful journey where I've learned a lot from peers, people that I have maybe not seen in ages, like Dante, who's playing for Nice, who played for Bayern Munich, win championship. We have Gal Clichy with us. We had the Nuri Sahin, who recently got fired from Borussia Dortmund. So we have all these kind of characters in our group, which is wonderful. So it's been a great journey coming to an end. 2 years journey, you know, doing the pro. So I'm very proud because this is something that a Gambian never had. A Gambian Norwegian, to be fair, I think I'm the first one to, you know, to have that. A Gambian Norwegian, you know, so it means a lot, and hopefully this open more doors as well for me in the future. But right now, the biggest thing is Phoenix Rising for me.
Yeah. Did you learn how to curse at pro referees in Welsh? Is that part of the deal?
Well, I got other 7 other languages to curse on, so that
Yeah,
kind of helps me
I
when it's
know.
needed.
Yeah, it's a thick book, man. With the human Rosetta Stone, Pa-Modou, 2 big games this week. CBS Sports Network Wednesday, 7:30 Pacific, 10:30 Eastern against Vegas, and then New Mexico, who the club certainly has a little history with in Jaeger Cup on the weekend. Pa, appreciate the time. Wishing you all the best in your travels back stateside, and good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you, gentlemen. Pleasure talking to you all.
Pleasure's all ours. Pa-Modou here on USL All Access. We're back in a moment with Tulsa Sporting Director and GM Caleb Sewell here on USL All Access.
Giving insight to all the biggest moments in Championship and League One. This is USL All Access on SiriusXM FC with Mike Watts and Devin Kerr.
Welcome back. Happy Tuesday. It's USL All Access. Mike Watts, Devin Kerr, and Emmett McConnell at the controls. As promised, if you missed any part of our previous interview with Pa-Modou. It's available on the USL YouTube page and the SiriusXM app. We're joined now by FC Tulsa's sporting director, general manager, Caleb Sewell. Maybe the biggest acquisition of the offseason for Tulsa, although he probably far too humble to admit that. Worked alongside Tim Howard after retiring as the sporting director in Memphis. Finished there last season, first season at Tulsa, and Caleb kind enough to spend a little piece of time with us coming out of the Memorial Day weekend. Caleb, welcome to the show, man. We're big fans and happy to finally get you on.
Likewise, guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You know, for people watching on YouTube tomorrow, they're going to see the background, Patterson Sewell on the jersey. All the press releases say Sewell. When you were in the league with TFC2, it was the long form name. People just want to know, mainly me, we going by Sewell now? Are we just we going casual from here on out?
Yeah, we're just keeping people guessing at this point, I think. No, Sewell, we'll keep it Sewell. It's short and easy. I think that seems to be the consensus moving forward as they got sick of spelling out the last name. So Sewell it is.
Just in time for the kit man to get no benefit.
That's right.
Caleb, man, you live the life of a pro goalkeeper to the fullest. Over 15 years in the pro game. A little bit of time in the championship too, but you're in the NASL, you're in MLS, you went overseas to Portugal. I just sort of want to start from 30,000 feet and say, clearly your vision has played in this league in terms of how you see talent and how you build squads. How did all that time in all these different places give you a different view or appreciation or an idea of how you wanted to build clubs on the field?
Yeah, I think more than anything, if I look back at sort of my career, I was always kind of trying to get to the next level, wanting to play at the highest level. I don't think it was about money really at any point. If I was a little smarter, probably I could have made more. But it was more about trying to find what was the highest level. I don't know why. It was just kind of ingrained in you from a kid. And I think that translates into this job, trying to get to a new level. But B, the biggest thing I would say is the network that has provided me across the time. I've managed to put myself as from a gringo kid going to Portugal with no Portuguese talent whatsoever to being able to speak now. And so there's definitely been some benefits, but I would say just the people you meet along the way, and that's key in this role.
Caleb Sewell's with us, sporting director, GM at FC Tulsa. You signed as a player coach in Toronto at the end of your time as a player, but it did give you a taste of the championship and for us to see you at that stage as well. When did you know front office as opposed to being a coach, or is that something that maybe still burns inside you that you want to try at some point?
Yeah, I thought in the beginning that I wanted to be a coach. And in the end, I thought, having had some businesses off the field and kind of this role, mixing the two, that was probably a better mix of the skill sets. Definitely in Toronto, I really enjoyed coaching. And in Memphis, I was doing coaching. We didn't have an assistant at the beginning in Tulsa this year, so gave Luke a hand on the pitch as well. But I really enjoyed the business side and trying to mold the two together. So I think anybody that tells you when they retire, they kind of have a clear vision exactly how things are going to play out. Maybe they do in their head, but usually reality is something different. So when the call came to sort of go to Memphis and do this role, it made a lot of sense for me, and it's one I'm enjoying.
I can envision it now. You on the pitch, whistle in hand, and Luke going, "No, just go stand in goal, dude. Just go back over there." What a sight that would be between you guys. Certainly, no doubt that there was success that followed you from Tulsa, right? A stat that Mike and I went back and forth about a couple of times because we were so blown away by it, and it wasn't disrespectful. It was just shock and awe based upon what we see in the league. You helped lead Memphis to a top 4 seed each of the past 3 years. No team had done that in a 5-year window. So, you look at the runs of the Rowdies and San Antonio and certainly Louisville City and Charleston. Mm-hmm. In that conversation, you guys sit above it, right? You oversaw players coming in and out, guys like Phil Goodrum, Graham Smith, Derek Dotson, Trey Muse. We'll get to that transition to Tulsa. But then there's also the side where with Peter Freund and Craig Unger, of course, Tim Howard was involved, where things start to shift a little bit, that also, I'm going to use the word again, that also shapes you because you're navigating the sporting side. You're also handling, making sure that the people that are involved. Can you maybe talk about the end of the time that was success and maybe the vision that helped get you to where you are today, kind of getting through those couple of months with the end of 901's tenure in this league?
Yeah, I can be honest in saying it was, I think heartbreaking maybe is an understatement, both for front office staff, people that get told their time at the club is done effective today. On the sporting side, where I think it's fair to say we didn't have many resources over that period in 3 years. I think we were always a bottom two, bottom three budget. We were pretty no frills, blue collar. So a lot of people, not just myself, but a lot of coaches, players, backroom staff working their ass off to make the place better and be competitive. And I really thought, if we were there going into this year, it would have been our most competitive squad. We had already signed players that were from abroad for what would have been this season, that were played in the Champions League and been around and captains of their country. And we'd done a lot of work and trying to get them on our budgets. And so that part where you're just sort of realizing that success, like, hey, we're a contender. We're in this top four each year. A bounce of the ball a different way. Maybe we've gone on a bit of a run in the playoffs, which is always how playoffs are. So that was a burning desire. And then I think Memphis gets a bad rap in general. It's always, a city that people don't want to go to, or there's too much crime, or whatever it was. I think we were kind of a bright light for the city at that point, being competitive. But at the end, when it's literally a phone call saying, hey, we need to have an emergency meeting. The club is going away based on not having a stadium plan. Yeah, that was tough. And then having to turn around the same day and you've picked up options and all these sort of things, where it's definitely wasn't calculated. I know that because we wouldn't have been given permission to do those sort of things. So for me, it was devastating. Out of nowhere, can honestly say I hadn't sort of been looking at anything, and coaches hadn't been looking at anything, and then all of a sudden it's like we have no team. So with that, mainly was just telling the boys, look, we'll help you. We'll be here to any way we can. And then that was that, and it happened in a matter of literally sort of 48 hours. It was all said and done. And then you're kind of just, as I said to my wife, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, we're just out of nowhere. You're planning, you're already, runs on the board for the following season, and it's gone. So that was tough. I'm sure there's plenty of lessons learned that maybe I wasn't privy to, those conversations that we need to take on board moving forward as a league, and I think that's genuine. But hopefully that's a lesson learned and not to be repeated, because it was not something I ever want to be a part of again.
Caleb Sewell's with us, FC Tulsa Sporting Director, GM, recounting a bit of that time at Memphis last year. They obviously transfer their franchise rights and the club shutters, and all of a sudden you're a free agent. And based on the stat Devin just gave, if you're looking to get this franchise, any franchise in the league, to a place that no other has been, you're probably a pretty good place to start. So here's Tulsa looking to do over again, right? They brought in Sam Dorr for a minute, certainly had Mario Sanchez as their head coach. That was a year-long process. Ultimately, Mario steps into a different role in the organization. Luke Spencer moves up from assistant into the head coaching position, and you jump in at Tulsa. I remember talking to Mario last year about the disconnect between the organization and the sporting side, and trying to marry those two together and create an organizational pride philosophy to build success on the field. Obviously, that's a long-term process. For you coming into Tulsa, describe that process of getting this group to the point where it's not feast or famine year in and year out, which historically it has been for one, but also what appealed to you about that job when maybe not every job was open to take, but if there was, you were certainly the pick of the litter.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think for me, there was, obviously a couple phone calls both within our league, outside of our league, and it kind of makes you think like, okay, what do you want to do? The truth be told, I honestly struggled in that immediate sort of 10 days, 2 weeks at that when the club, I think it doesn't hit you that there's nothing there for you, right? Caleb, they said there is no turning back. And it was never a money thing. It was more hey, I want to complete what I came here to do. But I came out to meet the owners. What I'll say in Tulsa is that was a driving force for me that they were open, honest. I think they recognized where they could have potentially done better in certain areas. And I think when I got to see the facilities as a whole, um, these facilities day in and day out are crazy good. So when you're coming from nothing and then you walk into that, and we've got a 15,000-ish square foot sports performance center that's better than any MLS sort of sports performance center I've been in. We got 13 fields, we got a turf pitch, we've got indoor pitches, we've got locker rooms, we've got cafeteria and bar area. So all these things were there, and so that was positive because when you have a vision, like what am I going to be able to build? What have I got here that other clubs don't have? Or how are we going to recruit to Tulsa? You often hear, they say, well, how are we, what's the strategy to get people to come to Tulsa? And I said, well, Memphis wasn't LA, so we we're on the same train, but I didn't know the city, and so I actually came a day early and drove around on my own. And the city is crazy good. Like I wasn't sure what to expect. Maybe that's my ignorance. I took my wife out for a dinner, and they're like, "Yeah, you don't have a reservation? No, it's an hour and a half. Wait, what do you mean? We're in Tulsa. This isn't a big city." But I was wrong. So with that being said, I could kind of piece together a vision of like, okay, they've got the pieces here. They just need to do the work. And one thing I identified really quick was processes and standards. I remember coming in, the first thing was like, all right, guys, before we do anything, the staff that we're already in, we're going to clean. So we got up, we took out trash bags, we took out sort of the locker room. We got rid of all the old stuff that was just being left around. We rearranged the locker room. We moved fridges. We moved things around to make it flow, make it better. We had the maintenance team come in and patch up holes in the wall and paint. And really, all that was doing is setting a tone for when the players come back. Little things matter. We're not going to be, that's okay. We'll just let that one slide and we keep going. So really trying to get into the culture day one. And people use this word culture and all that sort of stuff, but it's really for me just what you're willing to do on a day-to-day basis and stick to it. So we've managed to do that. I think, right now we're off to the best start they've had in I don't know how long, but that's what we keep reminding the guys. This is a start. This is not. We haven't done anything. We're not that naive. But yeah, I can definitely see change. I think the feedback has been that the change is there and it's positive. And as we continue to build, I think we've got something here where we can now go and really kick on and try and build something year on year. And I'm excited for that. And let's see what comes over the next sort of end of this season and going to next year. But yeah, I think we're on the right track.
Just so that we're clear on the recruiting side, you joked about LA and Memphis and Tulsa. I heard fields, I heard food, I heard bar area. Certainly, I perked up a little bit. And when you threw in cleaning, that was the cherry on top for me. So you got me bought in. Caleb Sewell joins us, frontman for FC Tulsa. Currently sit third in the Western Conference USL Championship. They will take on San Antonio tomorrow night. I'd be remiss earlier when we were talking about the success and the transition over that I didn't mention also your identification process with Stephen Glass. Big fan of him. Obviously going from Ben Pierman, who took off to the Charleston Battery. You bought Stephen Glass in. Again, another successful year in 2024. Luke Spencer. Though pre-existing, no head coaching experience at the senior level. You decided that this moment was right for him. Why?
I would say if you look, I'm a big believer in people that know the league. I think that's huge. He's been around it. He's won in it. He's obviously coming from an organization that I respect in Louisville. That's one that's just consistency, success in my view for the longest time. When you speak to Luke, I think the biggest thing for me, what stood out in the beginning was the will to be collaborative. I don't think anybody can do anything on their own. So that's something that we're really trying to foster inside the club is that everyone's collaborative and we all get around a table and really make sure we have the best decision and everyone's looped in. So for me, he's straight as well. He's straight with the players. And he's for a young coach, you always wonder, is there this ability to try and solve for everything in one session or 1 week. He is calm, and I think you guys would know that from speaking to him. He's kind of just real relaxed. But when it comes time to win, he's an ultimate competitor, and that aligns with me. So I think he's showing right now that we're using the pieces that we have to get results, and that's something that I'm excited about moving forward.
Let's keep going with the squad. I talked earlier about the identification and the transactions that took place during your time at Memphis. There are pieces at Tulsa that were there prior to your arrival, but a big fan of how you've gone about scouting and guys that you've brought in, both domestically and abroad. Some examples: A.B. Sissoko on the back line, right? What he's able to bring, the experience that he's already gotten so far within this country. Giordano Colli, former NPL Australian Second Division Player of the Year, right? As I go down the list, Al Hassan Torre from the French Second Division, personal favorite of mine. Taylor Calhera, how that guy didn't end up on someone's roster in MLS, that's a whole nother conversation, right? You have seen the tiers of this country for over a decade, longer than that, right? A decade and a half. And within that, scouting has changed. It's drastically changed in the USL Championship over the past couple of years. Can you maybe walk us through, though I didn't mention everyone, how you get through player identification, all jokes aside about coming to Tulsa, but how you get those guys to buy into the project, not just the location, but how you want to go about your business on the field?
Yeah, look, you're right. It's changed drastically. I think if you go back years ago, it's all domestic, it's tried and tested. Ownerships aren't paying immigration fees, but probably back when I started, people didn't know how to get people in with immigration to begin with. So that's all changed. But in general now, I think there's a lot more respect around the world. You can see that we're selling players, we're moving players. So people buy into that now. Everyone that comes from outside the country, we brought in Marcus Serrato, brought in Jamie Weber, Toure, to name but a few. But when they come, they're like, wow, so this is a proper league. Like, this is no walk in the park. And we tell them that up front. My philosophy is always, if we can get it local, and doesn't matter the nationality, but if we can see that it's tried and tested, we should do that first. If we can't get that within our budget, framework, then yeah, we need to look abroad and see if we can get those characteristics elsewhere and provide them with that sort of American opportunity, if you will. A lot of people still have this fantasy of living in America and the American dream and all these sort of things. And we often come across that when we speak to players. So yeah, for me, tried and tested first, but more than anything, we do a lot of background checks. That's another benefit of having a network. You can call people and find out, is this guy a good dude, or is this guy, he's not going to be one for us. And we steered clear of some people along the way, just on references. And I think by and large now, this year's group at Tulsa, we have a really good group. So I'd say it's working. It's not easy. We're going to miss some along the way, that's for sure. But by and large, if you do your homework and you take your time and don't rush, you'll get a lot of them right. And then long term for us, it's not to be turning over 10, 15 players a year and starting all over and just continuing that cycle. It's to be consistent. It's to understand that, yes, it's needed for players to come and go. But if we can make that sort of minimal and believe in what we're doing, I think we'll have a lot more success on the recruitment front.
Let's go full circle now. Started in the past, bring us to present times. You mentioned the start for FC Tulsa. The team, I had to go back and look because I was actually a little bit surprised, to be honest. But the team has never finished higher than 7th in their own respective conference and never finished higher than 13th overall between the two conferences. You're currently 3rd in the West and 8th. Tell everybody why you guys have had early success and why it's sustainable long-term here for FC Tulsa in the USL Championship.
Yeah, look, I think it's one of the things we've tried to do is really make sure we don't get caught up in the past. We don't really worry about the past results. We don't really worry about what's gone on before. We want to have our own DNA. We want to be the hardest working team. We want to make sure that we're on the front foot. And I think in general, that's something that we've been able to put in play. I think that's something that we're able to say we're doing right now. Defensively, we're very good. But as we move forward, I think more than anything, we just stay true to who we are and add pieces along the way. You referenced Taylor. That fits directly with what we're doing. But long term, I would say the pieces are there. We just got to stay disciplined in what we recruit and who we're going to be. And that's the biggest thing, is to understand sort of who we are and where we want to go. And I'm looking forward to what's coming.
Caleb Sewell with us here on USL All Access. Close with this. Did I see you spent a minute at Liverpool in the youth setup there before you jumped into the pros?
You did. I played there for a little bit. My first game was against Man United at the Carrington Training Ground.
Never heard of them.
So that was pretty cool, and my family was there for that. And then at the end of the time, I turned 18. I couldn't get a work permit, so then it all came crashing down as well. So yeah, that was my first sort of experience with all that kind of deal, and my family had no idea. But yeah, it was cool. It was a great time.
Anyone Devin, of course, knowing the Liverpool fan he is, it's written in ink on that bicep. Anyone that you came into contact there that would make Devin blush?
Yeah, it's probably is quite sad. There wasn't really anyone from that group that went on to
that's
football.
right.
But Steve Highway was definitely the academy director, and he's like a legend of the club that had been around. But not really a ton from that group. But maybe that's why I got a kick.
Fair enough. Caleb Sewell, we've waited a long time to chat with you. Glad that you were able to make some time. Tulsa plays San Antonio tomorrow night on CBS Sports Network and on TUDN en Español. It will be 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central. You don't want to miss it. Really, man, a long time coming. Appreciate the time.
No, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Happy to join anytime and love your work. And thanks again for having me.
That was worth every penny I paid him to say that. That's Caleb Sewell. We're back in a moment here on USL All Access.
You're listening to USL All Access on SiriusXM FC. Here are your hosts, Mike Watts and Devin Kerr.
We're back here on USL All Access on this Tuesday evening. Mike Watts, Devin Kerr to wrap this one up. A reminder, one of the best rivalries in the league, Phoenix Rising hosting New Mexico, 10 p.m. Eastern time. It is a USL Jägermeister Cup showdown, and you'll see it on ESPN Plus and hear it right here on SiriusXM FC, channel 157. There are only 3 league games this week because Jaeger Cup does take up a weekend match day. 2 of them are on national TV. They're all on Wednesday. CBS SN and TUDN have San Antonio, Tulsa at 8 Eastern, followed shortly thereafter by Vegas and Phoenix. Also, Indy hosting Hartford on Wednesday night as well. All right, Dev, Jaeger week. Pick your favorite Jaeger match.
Oh, I don't know. There are so many. New Mexico, Phoenix. I'm kidding. That, dude, just I want to read you these numbers. I had to look it up. All competitions, 15 matches, 67 goals. What are we doing? 67 goals. That is a wild number to put up in 15 matches. Over 4 goals a game.
19 of those were against the kids.
100%.
That one game.
Yeah. Oh, my God. What a game that was. You know, outside of the early games in league play that we saw from New Mexico United, this is a back-and-forth affair. Teams don't usually win back-to-back. But the way that Phoenix have gone recently, they're much more resolute on the backside, even though they've had to, Carl Sainty out of the midfield into the center back spot. I'm wondering how much they have to suffer in this game because of how good New Mexico United are on the ball. Now, I don't necessarily love their attack, but I think they are so clean on the ball, this could quickly become a wear them down, run them down type situation. And this could maybe only be 1-goal game. Just saying.
Couple quick mentions here. Group 6, Charleston asked to have it after their League One loss to Naples. Pittsburgh is a big one against Rhode Island. Las Vegas is already 2-0-0. They've played 2 of their 4 games. They go to Sacramento. They can't lock Group 1, but they can put themselves in a really, really good spot. My game, Louisville-Loudoun. On paper at the beginning of the year, you went, oh, that's a nice game. Now it's one of the best games of the season to this point. Both teams with a win already. Dev, did you learn anything this week?
Number 1, I refuse to shorten a name. If you've got a hyphenated last name or you just go by one name, I'm sticking with it. Caleb Patterson Sewell was awesome. Also, background has been the conversation of this. He's got the best background in the game. Background check complete. Love that backdrop of his.
No doubt. And Caleb, bro, we've gone to the same orthodontist, I can tell. All right, well, we see you next week. We'll have a better show, I swear. For Devin, Emmett, Mike, thanks for watching, listening. So long, everybody.
This is USL All Access. If you missed any portion of the program, listen back anytime on the SXM app.